Hi, my name is Hannah and welcome back to my channel. I am going to be wrapping up some of the last books that I have read in the month of June. So it is a beautiful day here, so I'm out on my balcony again, and I do apologize for any interference with the outdoor noises. There is a parrot that lives next door and I kind of love it. Like daily, the parrot sings songs and anytime I hear it, I just kind of whistle the tune, which, raises the question, if I'm repeating after this bird all the time, who's the actual parrot, the bird or me? But it is a lot of fun out here, so sorry about the background noise. It's so lovely here, and let's jump into the books. So I read the book Everyone Knows Your Mother is a Witch by Rivka Galchen, and this is following a woman, her name is Katarina Kepler, and she's accused of being a witch in the 1600s, and this is following kind of her witch trial. I felt very present and didn't feel very antiquated, so it was kind of a fun read. Like, it was snappy and was easy to get through. I enjoyed it. There were some good observations, some interesting story, but not like so much interest, so I wasn't quite sure if I was like, why am I reading this? Like, why is the author making these choices? And I didn't realize to the end, like, it is a novel, so it's not really historically accurate completely, but it is based in historical fact. So the astronomer, the imperial mathematician Johannes Kepler, back in Germany in the 1600s, his mother was accused of being a witch. So it is based in that, which kind of makes me like it more, because I'm like, if you're going with a witch trial, you have so much leeway. There's so much you could tell about this, and I guess the author was trying to go with more of a historically accurate perspective. I don't know if I found it super memorable or added a ton to this, so I'm kind of, just in the middle. It was a bit of a meh for me, but I enjoyed my time with it. Am I gonna say everybody should read this? Probably not. So I read the book This Tender Land by William Kent Kruger, and this was actually a recommendation from the channel Red Dot Reads, which is a very fun channel, so I'll link that down below. So this book is following a pair of brothers and their friend as they escape their abusive school life and go on an adventure down the river and find the meaning of family. And this is set in 1932, and it's very Huckleberry Finn kind of vibes, and it was really well written. So this was a very beautifully written book. I do recommend it. I thought it had a lot of great observations. It's very much that, I feel like there is kind of a genre of books of the 12-year-old boys go on adventures and learn about the meaning of life. So it's very much that. I thought there were a lot of good things, but here are my two main gripes with it. So I'm giving it like I gave this 4 stars. Don't focus on the bad stuff. I'm just gonna tell you the bad stuff, because I thought that it was really well done. There was a lot of really interesting things in it. Things that I thought were a little strange. This is focusing on a school that's called the Lincoln Indian Training School, and it's a school for Native American children. And this is, definitely something that should be talked about and is very difficult, but it's telling the story of these 2 brothers, and they are not Native American. They somehow got placed in this school and are the only white children in the school. And I thought it was a very interesting choice of the author to tell the story of a school that is for Native children and the horrors that faced them there through the only white children. And then we have one other Native boy that ends up traveling with them and is a big part of the story, but he is literally mute. And I thought that it was kind of an interesting decision, and I would be interested, if you've read this book, whether you found that to be effective. Did the author do a good job in bringing to light and telling these stories of Native children through these 2 white boys, or was it kind of taking away their voice? I I thought at times the author really did try to address some of the disparities in treatment between the white boys and their Native American friend, and I thought that that was something that was necessary, and I was glad the author did that. But also there were other times when I thought that there probably would have been more that had gone into it, you know, like more in play than the author had explained. Like when they were at the school, they didn't talk about the boys being given any special treatment or being treated differently than the Native children, and I wondered if that was, it seemed like kind of a strange choice on the author's part. I mean, I do think the author was trying to address a lot of those issues, which I think is good, so I just thought it was an interesting choice, and I would be interested to know like how you thought that was successful and how you thought that maybe distracted from some of the points the author was trying to make. And then the other one is just my own personal quibble with the book. I find it really annoying when there are 12-year-olds who are falling into love that will end up lasting through the years. 12-year-olds don't know what love is. They don't fall in love. Ew. Like, for some reason that always turns me off to a book, but that's just maybe my personal opinion on that. So but overall this book had a lot of really great things on like religion and hope and finding God and looking at God from a hopeful perspective, and being grateful for the things that you were given, and not just thinking that everything that will go wrong will go wrong. So I thought there were a lot of interesting things to talk about. I do recommend it. Thought it was interesting. I would love to hear your thoughts on it. So I heard about this next book from iDeea over at iDeea, so I will make sure to link her channel down below. And this was called The Last Cuentista by Donna Barba Higuera. And there were things about this book that I really enjoyed. It is following a girl, it's a sci-fi kind of book, and she wants to be a storyteller like her abuela, but the world is ending, and her family are getting on the few ships that are going to leave Earth and find a new home, and she's getting kind of put in stasis for the hundreds of years until they get to the new planet. So there's some sci-fi elements in it, but there were also some really beautiful like storytelling elements, and watching our main character Petra as she tries to hold on to her memories and her stories of home. I thought that there were some really beautiful things in there. Now, there were a few things in this book that were just weird plot devices. So she's put in stasis, and for some reason she doesn't quite go completely under, and she can see what's going on for a little bit of the time, but not enough that it's a huge problem where she's awake for all 300 years of being in stasis, but it's enough that she knows all the key plot points. So it was just a convenient issue with the technology. Like, there were a couple things that I was like, is that really necessary? And I don't think the author gave us quite enough time as readers to maybe take in the moral implications of the decisions that Petra made toward the end of the book. So I'm a little torn on this book because I did think some of the storytelling and the history and how, you know, storytelling helps us connect to our humanity and can bring us toward the future, and how when we remember our past, we learn from it and grow from it. Like, I thought that those were good messages, but there were a few things that took me out of the story a little bit. So I enjoyed it, but I don't know if I would say like everyone should read it. It was interesting. If you're really into sci-fi, maybe you would like this. I think I read a different book than all of the other Goodreads reviewers because I did not like this book at all. I read The Chosen and the Beautiful by Nevo. And let me read to you a little of the description to see why I was excited for this book. It says that Nevo's debut novel, The Chosen and the Beautiful, reinvents this classic of the American canon as a coming-of-age story full of magic, mystery, and glittering excess, and introduces a major new literary voice. So I'm kind of excited for a new literary retelling of The Great Gatsby. And okay, so let's be straight up here. I don't know if I've read this book. I don't know if I've read The Great Gatsby before. It's one of those that I don't actually remember reading, but I remember discussing it enough in English class in high school that I'm pretty sure I read it, but it just wasn't super memorable for me. So like, when I read this book, a lot of the plot points seemed very familiar, and I've seen a movie. Like, I know the basis of Great Gatsby, so, but I'm not like the #1 Great Gatsby fan. This to me read as a garbage Great Gatsby fanfiction. That's all it was. I have no idea what this brought to the table other than if you really love Great Gatsby, you might enjoy it as a garbage fanfic. Like, I don't understand why people think that this is a good reinvention of the tale. So the fact that there's more queerness in this book was one of the selling points. And I think it was just because the author was like, I'm gonna have all the characters kiss, which didn't really add much to the plot other than I think the author just wanted to see all the characters kiss. And then they had like the magic, there were magical elements in this book. It was never fully explained. It was kind of just the equivalent of somebody writing a fanfic and saying, and they're all mermaids, or, you know, something like that. I never really understood why there was magic in this book, or what it added, or what it changed about Great Gatsby. It followed the same plot. It really did nothing for me. And I thought that, you know, I was hoping that, you know, okay, so she was born in Vietnam, so maybe this will have some better commentary on there. And I think the author attempted that about this time period and being Asian in the United States during this time period, but it never was enough to mean anything. And some things were introduced, like a community of other Asian characters were kind of introduced, but nothing ever came from that. I mean, the writing was fine. I did not mind the writing. I thought it was pretty okay, but I did not get why this book was necessary or good. So I hope I'm not stepping on anybody's toes there, but let me know if you read this and loved it. I think if you are obsessed with Great Gatsby, you would really like this. If you just kind of have a casual interest of Great Gatsby and were thinking, oh yes, this will be a more inclusive, interesting theme, retelling, you know, like look back into a classic, I think you're gonna be disappointed. I did not really like this one. So anyways, let me know what you think of this. So I read the book, These Precious Days. It's a collection of essays by Ann Patchett. And I, of course, read this. I've never read any book by Ann Patchett. So I think you would probably like this a lot if you have read and really enjoyed books by Ann Patchett. I don't know if this is the right place to start with Ann Patchett, but as a collection of essays goes, it was nice. I enjoyed it. I wasn't super connecting with any of it at the beginning. I was just, okay, that was a nice story. Oh yeah, I mean, I'm getting to know her a bit, just hearing about her life, things she thinks. It wasn't particularly humorous or memorable for me, but then we get to the end and her essays that were titled These Precious Days, where she talks about caring for a friend with terminal cancer, and that was really poignant. Like, I thought she had a lot of really good thoughts on life and what gives it meaning, and just the courage of her friend, and I thought that there were some really beautiful things in that essay. So I thought this book was well done, a good group of essays. I just don't know if you really want to read this if you haven't read any books by Ann Patchett. So if you have read books by Ann Patchett and liked them, let me know what book I should start with if I wanted to read any of her books after reading this. And those are the last few books that I have read this month. So let me know what you thought of them. Let me know where I was wrong, and I will be back in this next month with some more book wrap-ups.